Noisy Pixel.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Noisy Pixel podcast for August 10th. It is episode 12. I'm your host, Arthur, joined by Azario. How are you today?
I'm feeling good. I actually remembered the podcast today, which is a good thing. I was prepared for it, but so prepared.
Always nice to be remembered. Yes.
So prepared that I took a shower 10 minutes before the podcast. And then I realized, oh shit, I didn't give myself enough time to dry off my hair.
So we got a fresh look for you today. I too got a haircut. So not the same type of freshness, but we got a lot going on, especially with Ian here, always looking fresh.
Oh, thank you. I don't have a fresh new haircut, but I have a fresh new room. So
for the YouTube listeners or
yes.
viewers.
Can you explain the art for us?
The art. Yeah. So my friend did pick this one up and my friend did the other art here. So yeah.
What are those elephants doing?
It's a still life. It's a still life. So yeah.
What's the medium on that?
Graphite, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Audio listeners really missing out, gotta say.
That's right. I take my art degree. This is where it comes in handy. I can look at something and say, I think I know how that was made.
Yeah. looks like a graphite, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Brian not joining us this week. I discovered a disturbing trend that our views were the highest when Brian wasn't here. So we have discussed it with the board, made a business decision.
It comes, it's not easy to point these things out, but you got to sometimes.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, someone has to be the bad guy. And I'm glad it's you because it's typically me. And I don't like being the bad guy all the time.
Yeah.
Keeps me up at night.
So is this being told to Brian via the podcast?
Via podcast, yeah.
Okay.
News,
Yeah,
Brian.
Okay. I don't think he knows. There is no way that he'll actually hear this, actually. So unless we tell him what's up, we could literally say anything we want about him right now and he'll never know.
I think that's a really bad plan, but
that's going to be the new bit. We'll go far with it, but we do have some things to talk about this week. I used to overview the stories at the beginning, and then I stopped doing it at some point. But we're talking about Sony's purchase of Crunchyroll. We got some Warriors related news, and then we actually got a listener question later in the show that we're going to address briefly. But the biggest thing, especially for this audience, is definitely I think Sony initiated the purchase of Crunchyroll, one of the biggest providers of anime and illegal means. If not months ago, maybe years ago. I feel like I've known this for a very long time.
I think it was last December or sometime end of 2020 that it happened. The initial bid or the acquisition, and then haters gonna hate, and they're like, whoa, you can't own Funimation and Crunchyroll. So things got messy, but today.
So quickly, there's a dispute on whether or not Sony could buy Crunchyroll because with their ownership of Funimation, they would have a quote monopoly on the anime market, which would have been great because then it would have been all under one roof to destroy at the same time. But I actually no, it is great because it did go through, right?
Yeah. So I mean, there's players on both camps of Crunchyroll sucks. Now it's gonna suck even more because Funimation sucks. It's like nobody. It doesn't. I've seen a lot more people upset about it than happy about it, and I'm in the camp where I'm like, well, I don't care. I just want to watch anime and not pay $20 a month. I'll pay $15. Okay, I'll do a healthy $14.99 a month, $12.99 a month. Because it's a lot of fucking anime.
You're opening that customer support with an opening bargain.
Well, technically,
listen, Crunchy.
If Spotify wanted to charge me $19.99 to listen to music, I would pay it just because of how much I use Spotify and how much I respect musicians. But same with anime. If the charge was $14.99, I would do it. If I knew that it was going straight back to the industry, it's what is it? I'm getting entertainment from it, and I'm going to pay for that entertainment.
Yeah. I think the only calculation at that point is like how many subscriptions do I got going here?
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, like, well, so does Funimation have a subscription as well?
They do. They have their own.
So
Funimation.
is there a dream here where you can get one Sony anime subscription and get both?
Supposedly that's going to happen.
Have they actually said that, or is that just a thing that could happen that they never do? Like, hey, a good thing about digital sales is that it'll decrease the price because there's no physical packaging or shipping, right? Like that thing that never happened.
I think that they'll do it because it used to be everything used to be on VRV. If that's a different subscription service where it has like High Dive, Crunchyroll, and it used to have Funimation, and Funimation pulled out and did their own subscription service on the side. So VRV doesn't have the Funimation anymore.
What's the pricing for Funimation versus Crunchyroll?
I think Funimation's like $10. Crunchyroll's like $6.99 or something like that.
Oh,
I think.
Why'd you say $20 earlier?
Because I would pay $20 if they wanted to.
Where was the 15 bargain coming from? Why would you lower the price?
The 15 is because I thought about how much I would pay for bathing suit DLC, and that's around $11.99. So if I would pay max $11.99 for bathing suit DLC, then the max I would pay a month for anime would probably be $14.99.
Okay, I don't know if I got lost in your joke or if you just took me for a ride, but
no joke.
I'm gonna go back and listen and see if that made any sense. I was under the impression Crunchyroll was $20 a month, which seemed like a lot, but
I've never said a more serious thing in my entire fucking life.
That was a lot of numbers. But yeah, I think you were saying that they are going to combine them. I think that would make a lot of sense, right? Because otherwise it just seems like somebody that doesn't know, it's just these two competing. Which one do you buy? And I don't know if they're going to combine them and then just up the price, or how that's going to go.
Yeah. And also, like, what percentage of the anime base like purchases these things legally? My interpretation of anime in general is, well, I imagine a lot of it is region locked. So there's stuff that's released in Japan first. So at that point, if you're already in the the mindset of like, well, I want to see it immediately, then, you're just going to download a torrent, right?
Yeah, you're kind of stuck to what's licensed and what's not. But if it's a Funimation licensed product, they do they have a lot of simul dubs now where, oh my God, I don't know how they freaking do it, but they put it out within hours of the Japanese release sometimes. Even like, this is dubs too. Like, they somehow get the episode early, do the audio, put it on. It's not the best translation, and they redo it later, I believe, if they release it on a physical disc. But in that delivering that first initial release, it's released with the Japanese version, and I think people really like that. But
is there like a prevailing show that people are still watching that's coming out? Like, I feel like most anime I hear about in retrospect. I guess Attack on Titan sort of entered like a cultural consciousness in a way that I hadn't seen for an anime in a while. Is that even going still?
Yeah, they're in their last season. It's in the middle. And we're waiting. I think we have to wait till next year for the rest of the season to air. But man, you're in for a lot of good stuff if you do catch up with Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm. I saw the first season. Yeah, so this is a reoccurring thing in my life. I tell people that I don't like anime, and they ask me, "Well, what anime have you watched?" And then I tell them, and they're like, "No, you need to watch my favorite anime," and they're all bad.
Do you watch anime, Ian?
I do. I get a little bit more. I not to sound hipster, but there's very specific kind of like genres and tones that I like, and it seems like a lot of things that are a little bit more popular maybe aren't as subtle as I usually like with anime. Sometimes it's can be a little over the top, but I know that's not all. So yeah, like it's an older one, but like Kino's Journey is like my favorite anime. So that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Kino's Journey.
Yeah,
Journey.
I feel like especially with anime,
film buff.
I feel like with anime, we we go with what we're familiar with most of the time. And there's times where I just didn't want to watch new anime because I knew what I liked, and I would just rewatch Gundam Wing 7 times, you know, I know I like Gundam Wing, so I'm just going to rewatch it as many times as I can.
Is that your go-to? If I'm like, I just got to Earth, show me anime. And you're like, Gundam, man, robots.
Okay, hold up, Schmoned. If you just got to Earth and you said, I want to watch anime,
show me the anime. Yeah.
We're watching Bible Black.
I don't know what that is.
Don't.
You might want to clear your search history.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't.
Okay, first of all, so there Bible Black is and then there's a word that I've never seen before in my life, so I can only imagine this is going to go well. Eroge.
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 I'm probably saying that wrong. I get made fun of for saying it all the time.
I want to keep reading this.
There's also La Blue Girl. I mean, we can watch it all. Because if we're gonna get weird, Arthur. And that's
there's this straight up porn right on the Wikipedia page.
You already said it's a roge, you know? Like,
I should have known.
You should have known.
I don't think the goal was the weirdest. I think it was just, what is anime?
Well, so I have to say, Izario took a similar path to me. So the first anime I watched was Elfen Lied, because I'm like, dude, that sounds like fucking anime to me. Cat girl just killing things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that great. And I can understand why some people were frustrated when I said that was my first experience. But dude, I don't know.
That anime spawned so many good sci-fi movies and TV shows. So I think Elfen Lied is one of the, I mean, the story kind of falls apart in some areas, but I'm going to have to say that it's a good one.
Here's my thing with anime, and then sorry, we can move on. I feel, is this true of all anime where there's just no ceiling to like the magic that can happen? Like no matter what the world is, there's like people that can catch bullets and like reassemble their fingers. Yeah, but I mean, not like all the time, but there will be a moment in like a series that pretends to be more down to earth, and then just like all of a sudden some nonsense happens.
I think I line that up with coincidences. Anime is full of coincidences. Like every bad thing that happens, whether it's in one episode or 2 episodes, coincidentally, they're going to fall into the solution, and how they get there, whether it be growing an arm or dying and coming back to life, they're going to get there. You know, you're right. There's if there is a ceiling, it's very high.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying, and I think that just falls into coincidences, and sometimes I don't like that. Sometimes I don't like that in stories where everything just happens, just written in and then totally passed up.
Yeah, I think there's literally an axiom in writing that your character should get in trouble by coincidence, but not get out of trouble by coincidence. But alas, Crunchyroll, now owned by Sony, or at least the purchasing will begin its initiation. So it may take a few months to actually get integrated into their whole platform. But Crunchyroll's already on like PlayStation and stuff, right? Like they have an app
it's on everything.
and everything.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
I have high hopes.
Yeah. Is there any benefit here other than the merging of the two services? Potentially one cost. Hopefully
somehow somebody gets more money, because AT&T owned Crunchyroll before and they didn't give a damn about it. So
so they're already owned by a major conglomerate.
Yeah, Sony bought it from AT&T.
Okay, so at the very least, maybe it will be.
This was all done in a sale to cut some of AT&T's losses, because I guess Crunchyroll was considered a loss to them.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what's not a loss is that Warriors franchise, which just keeps doing better and better. I don't have the news story for this one, Azara, so you got to tell me what's going on here.
Okay, I don't have it up either, but I know
let's
that
talk
Samurai
about it.
Warriors Samurai Warriors has announced that they have sold 8 million copies across the whole series.
Of the Samurai Warriors series.
Yes, just Samurai Warriors, not Dynasty Warriors.
No dynasties here.
Gundam Warriors, not Hyrule Warriors.
I forgot about Gundam Warriors.
Not One Piece Warriors.
Samurai Warriors.
Samurai Warriors. Well, I think Samurai Warriors is one of the stronger spin-offs of.
You think so? I played that first one, back when I was like 13. And I remember thinking, they're going for a more story focus here. You can do like the ninja jump in these levels that are very vertical, which is kind of neat. But it really was no Lu Bu.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what you'd get, right? You sacrifice the Lu Bu for the Nobunaga, but I think the Nobunaga is just a cool dude. He's just he's just trying to unify the country.
He was like a Sima Yi figure in terms of how he played, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Does that reference make any sense?
No.
Okay.
For our audience who doesn't get such things, maybe they might need to be informed, right?
I don't know. So like Sima Yi was like the Wei strategist in Dynasty Warriors, and he had like a fan, and he did like fan stuff, but he didn't have like a weapon. And I want to say I remember Nobunaga being like a similar strategist type of guy and not like a sword dude, but I'm looking at Google images and I seem to have been debunked.
No, he's a sword guy, but this entry paints him in a more like younger, casual, but a better tone than he's ever been presented before. He's always in this lighthearted, like story-centered figure, but this one, not the newest one at least, Samurai Warriors 5, not only rebooted the graphics, but also kind of refocused his characteristics.
Yeah, and that was kind of like the check-in I wanted to do based on the brief conversation we had before. Like at some point, I remember posting on gamewinners.org in the forums for any fans of ancient internet communities in the Dynasty Warriors section that like, man, if they just invested a little bit more money into these games, I think there is like a lot of lore and characters they could develop and make like a real RPG out of it. Did they ever actually do that, or did I miss out?
They did a tactical RPG called Dynasty Warriors Next or Warriors Next or something like that. It's on the Vita. And they did some, nothing like a turn-based cool RPG, if that's what you're talking about. Like,
well, there was Dynasty Warriors Tactics. Yeah,
Dynasty Warriors Tactics on PS2. But I'm thinking like a turn-based, like just exploration adventure type RPG, like in the vein of like Final Fantasy 12 or 10.
I mean, I'm thinking like the thing that you were referencing Dynasty Warriors 9 was, where it was like open world and like you have stats.
Yeah, like, so Dynasty Warriors 9 was like ambitious for them. And it was like, well, that's the problem with series that spawn genres. And it kind of sucks for them, to be honest. Like an indie developer can put out a series and evolve on it ever so slightly every release, but a developer like Omega Force, who does Samurai Warriors, or even Nintendo, who does Mario, they are forced to raise the bar each and every entry, and if they don't, then fans hate them. But with an indie developer, they don't have to. They're not put to those limits. But these developers who spawn these genres, they're forced to constantly evolve. And I think with Dynasty Warriors 9, they tried so hard to evolve it, they totally lost focus on what they were even creating.
It was no longer a Warriors game. It was just a subpar open world game.
Yeah,
based on the reviews.
Very strange. It was a very strange release. But they tried something new. It just didn't work.
Well, it looked pretty.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it sounds like Samurai Warriors is doing okay. Was that fifth one particularly renowned?
The fifth one's
coming out. No, it just came out.
It just came out. The fifth one is good. It corrects a lot of. It goes for a new art style. I think that's the biggest thing that people are talking about. It does clone some characters. Some characters are just character clones.
Wow, a Warriors game.
Yeah, the 36
Cloning.
characters. So that's one thing.
Oh, this is more like, I don't want to say cell shaded.
It is.
Definitely. Yeah, it is cell shaded. Okay.
Yes. And that's cool because it'll age better.
Well, yeah, it's more inspired, and especially like in the HD era. Like I know we're going to get to like 32K at some point, but I think a stylistic approach to a game, like you said, is going to last a lot longer.
So
they're already so fucking cartoony anyway. Those Mushu attacks.
I think the Warrior series in general has a lot of legs. You know, it's not dying anytime soon. It has a lot of fans, and you're going to see online like repetitive. You know, I don't think this is a series that the reviews matter. You're going to continue to see it because I don't think it takes that much resources after they've created the fact. They already have these animations and move sets. They're just tweaking and rebalancing after that, right?
Yeah. But if you didn't have the gig that you do, Azaria, what was the last Warriors game you would have played?
Spirit of Sonata would be the last one, and that was way before 9, I believe. But Spirit of Sonata
2016.
Spirit of Sonata only because it has RPG elements where you build up a town and you can like fish and train people and then go out when you want to different parts of the map. So that's why I like Spirit of Sonata. It was a lot more character focused on what you wanted to do.
What about you, Ian?
The last one I played in all the Warriors was the Hyrule Warriors, the Age of Calamity. Was that the title?
Yeah. Second one.
Yeah.
Last year.
It was good. But I am a fan of those games, and I can see the criticism for sure, like the repetitive and stuff. But it is kind of like almost like your action popcorn flicks, where you know what you're getting into, and if you enjoy that, it's a great time. Usually, you know, if they do most of the steps well, but so it's really hard to. You can criticize it, but you start getting into like a really like rabbit hole when you start doing that, I think. Yeah. I mean, cause like, I don't think it is for a game that people will get bored easily or get tired of like repetitive movements and stuff like that.
Yeah. I have a friend that he's a very intelligent, smart guy, and his work is very demanding and requires a lot of intelligence. And what he would do in his free time is he would just play Mario Kart for like 6 hours in a row. I'm like, dude, like, why? Like, it's not even a competition. You're just like lapping the AI that you just beat over and over and over again. And, you know, I can imagine him being a big Warriors fan too. Made the leap, you know?
Yeah.
There's a comfort food to it. Yeah. It is kind of incredible that I don't know which one of the first like branching off of the Warriors was. There's probably Gundam, but now there's like Hyrule Warriors. And I mean, I think that, there's an Attack on Titan game, right? Was that basically a Warriors game? Was that literally them?
It was developed by Megaforce, but it
One Piece.
Yeah, One Piece. Pirate Warriors.
I see Persona 5 Strikers listed on here. I don't know if is that similar? Yeah,
that's actually more of a Musu than Attack on Titan was. Attack on Titan was really good though.
They made it work. I would love to know if anybody still works at that company that was there when they like launched 97 Dynasty Warriors or whatever.
The president, he was the original developer of Dynasty Warriors, and now he is the president of Koei Tecmo, but he still produces the Dynasty Warriors games. He still works on as producer.
Not the president of Omega Force. The president of Koei Tecmo. That's quite the ascendancy, I have to say.
That's kind of amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. It almost brings a tear to my eye, which brings us to our next topic. We got a listener question. I just closed the tab like a big idiot. Hold on. Sorry, I'll edit all this in post. I know you do a lot of really intense editing.
I think I'll leave it. I think I'll be too lazy to edit it.
Yeah, you don't edit a fucking thing. Todd B.
Oh, Todd motherfucking B.
The high quality listener. So last week we mentioned that sometimes there's slow news weeks, especially during the summer months when things aren't really coming out or getting announced because we're all just kind of waiting for them to happen, especially the case during a pandemic. So we love to take listener questions because then we have something to talk about. And Todd B asked, what game gave you the feels the most? And I did brief you guys on this previously, so hopefully you've thought about it a little bit. I can give a quick answer before you guys, which is just in general, when I think of feels, although not exactly like maybe the version he's thinking about, because I think he's thinking like, what was like the moment that you had? And then you're like, oh man, I felt a lot just there. But I always had like a lot of fondness for the first Final Fantasy I played, which was Final Fantasy X. And just like the situation that I discovered it, like I originally played it at a cousin's house and I didn't know what it was called. And I think I was like 10. So it was like unlike another game I'd ever seen before, being mostly familiar with N64, Super Mario and GoldenEye and stuff like that. So just seeing like voice acting and like stories and characters, and like the opening of that game has like a pretty big call to action for the main hero. And then I didn't actually play it for myself for like 2 years later. And then when I did, I didn't know what JRPGs were. So I'd skip all the stories, skip all the battles and just get to the story. So there were multiple instances where I got to a part of the game where I just couldn't progress any further. So I ended up playing from the moment that I first played it.
Where was it? Where could you not progress? I think I could guess. Can I guess real quick?
Give it, so there are 3, if you want to give it a guess. You're going to get at least 2 of them.
I think it was on top of that mountain.
Okay, so the mountain is the last one. Yeah. Okay,
the snowy mountain with what's it? Seymour.
Seymour, yeah. I tried to replay that game recently as an adult and I forgot about that and I fucking gave up on that fucking mountain.
that was the battle. Well, I'm just saying that was it because that was the battle that as a kid that I couldn't get past.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's actually 4 now that I think about it. So the other ones were, the big one was Lady Unalesca, which is like near the very end of the game.
That's the one I was thinking of, actually.
Yeah. That one is bullshit.
That is actually a bullshit.
Which is why you just level up until you have Holy on Yuna, then it's not so bad. But then the earlier ones, when I was just a dumb kid, there's the first Seymour fight, which is relatively early on. And then there was the fight with the worm outside of Bavel. And I think that one was especially hard because there was no way to grind. Like you're either leveled for it or you're not. So anyway, so there wasn't like a particular moment, although like I'm sure everything about that game was very dramatic for teenage me. But I always had like a really strong fondness with it. And I do remember when it finally ended after playing it for like 5 or 6 years, that I felt like a sense of loss. These characters I had come to know more and more for like a significant portion of my life were just kind of gone. So that was kind of heartbreaking in a way, but maybe not the exact version of the story. Ian, you have one in mind?
Yeah, when I kind of looked at games maybe a little bit differently, and I know maybe some of the voice acting is a little, not always 100%, and that's maybe put in mildly, but I really, Silent Hill 2 hit me in a really like strong way, and in a way that I wasn't used to games approaching before then. And it was one of the first games I really tackled that dealt with kind of more issues like depression and subjects that were just kind of darker, but not just like, oh, scary dark. It did combine that, but also like emotionally troubled and I don't know, brought a little bit more nuance than I was used to with video games at the time.
Showed you a side of people that maybe a video game would typically just gloss over, but this one puts it out in front. Like, yeah. So you'll encounter somebody and you're like, well, is there people like this? So it kind of brings your thought process down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. In retrospect, Silent Hill. So I'm in this music Facebook group, and one of the questions was, what is the most insane artist that went mainstream? And I kind of think about that with Silent Hill, because those games were like mentioned in tandem with Resident Evil, but like at least Resident Evil, there was like combat, like there was a game where it's like Silent Hill. I mean, I didn't play much of it, but I remember it was like a lot more just sort of like atmospheric and absorbing,
walk here, grab this.
Yeah.
And hey, think about the weird, disturbing imagery you're looking at and connect it to what else is happening. Like in retrospect, the fact that was considered like not only a big budget game, but like a sequel in a franchise, like it just seems bizarre.
Yeah, it really does. So that's mine. And I won't spoil anything for a game that is like
20 years old.
But,
actually, we have the 20-year anniversary next month.
Hey, there you go. So, but it is definitely, if you can find the original version, I definitely would recommend it to people that are down for something that's a little bit darker and it's kind of a weird journey.
I would approach it from a historical standpoint and just appreciate that it's so different, because it's definitely, I remember playing that game in like 2008 and thinking it had not aged well. So.
Yeah. I could see that. If you're not a fan of those kind of like the horror controls, especially, might not be your cup of tea, but
Yeah. Zario, what do you got on your mind?
When I think emotional, I think like things that kind of make give you goosebumps or something like that. Like not, I know
gives you goosebumps. You mean not the classic R.L. Stein series?
No. Doot. No.
Oh yeah.
No, this. I finally it's another Final Fantasy game, so I'm sorry, and it's not Final Fantasy 7. So let me just start the story into
when Aerith died.
Hey, whoa! I didn't say it. No, I was 12 years old and I got Final Fantasy 9, and I remember I got it for Christmas, so I didn't have school, and I put it in, and we got past the castle bit, and the petrified forest happens, and you go out into the main world. And I remember as a 12-year-old, when I got into the main world, right after that forest, you kind of see like fog, and then the music comes on, and it's like it's just that part I remember experiencing, and just like, this is an amazing game. Like, I didn't need to play anymore. I felt so like, I'm
satisfied.
Yeah, this is so cool. Like I felt the music. I felt like I absorbed everything about that part, about the open world, about the music, about the fog that was settling, about what just happened in the petrified forest. Like all these elements of gaming just hit me all at once, and I was like, fuck, like this is good. And there's a scene in the game that I actually got emotional on, because there's no voice acting in 9, but there's this scene where Dagger, she'll cut her hair, and that scene I fondly remember too, as just like super impactful moment. And
Final Fantasy 9 is, I feel like, the forgotten Final Fantasy in some ways.
Yeah.
Like, it's often skipped over just in any reference to Final Fantasy, and including myself. That's like the one that I never even attempted to play or know anything about, unfortunately. But
it's weird, because like they realized that in 7 people like finding secret stuff, and then so they filled 8 with all this secret shit that you could find if you just explore and waste your time. And then in 9 they found this like medium where like, okay, there's all these side quests that you could do, but we gotta tone it down a little bit. And I think it's the game with the perfect balance of like direction, even in the side quests, on where you should go, and like how to spend time in like the third disc, like what do you do? So I wouldn't say 9's my favorite of the Final Fantasies, but I think it's the most impactful to show me that, like, as an emotional, like, this is what gaming can be,
Well, we're a little over time, but I did want to ask about what is like a recent feels that you've had, because I know on some level it's like this question sort of brings up like a handful of examples that always get brought up, like Final Fantasy, like you said, right? So, are you still capable of emotion these days, or have you lost the luster for that type of thing?
I cried playing Fuga Melodies of Steel just recently. There's this soul canon where you have to sacrifice a character. So when you're fighting a boss, they'll be like, yeah, you can fight him, or you could take this shortcut soul cannon, but you have to kill one of your characters to use it. And this is permadeath.
Ooh.
Okay. So I did it. And these are children. Like the characters are children. And it happened. And the kid died. And I didn't get him back. And in my head, my gamer head's like, oh, he's gonna fucking come back. I mean, they're some magic, it's not real. It's not real. They couldn't do this. They completely removed him from the story, and it was fucked up.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Not that this is a feels moment, but just the thing that reminded me was in God, what was that JRPG that came out on the Wii? That's not called the Monado, but they say the fucking Monado all the fucking time.
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, that one. So I remember, so there's like an early death in that game. And I'm like, well, there's no way they killed that person because they have a whole upgrade tree that I've seen in the menu. And yeah, you play another 40 hours and they haven't shown up again. And you're like,
I did that with Aerith too. I thought they were going to bring Aerith back because if you look at the manual, it shows her in front of the airship in a FMV. And I was like, well, I haven't seen that FMV. So clearly she comes back. Ooh. Got you, Square. But no, she doesn't come back.
They got you.
Yeah, they tricked me. But I still want to see that FMV.
I'll hand it off to you in a sec, but the recent ones that I was thinking of, well, actually now you referenced a game that came out like earlier this year. So now I feel dumb mentioning mine.
Oh, you don't feel dumb. No one feels dumb here.
I was just going to say, a fake answer. I've been playing Crusader Kings a lot lately. And when that came out last year, there's definitely like, I don't know if this counts as the feels, but like, there's definitely a moment of pure rage of like rage, like within the story, like, so Crusader Kings, medieval simulator of kingdoms and stuff. And when your person dies, the kingdom gets split up among the children. And I mean, there's ways around it, but this instance, there were two kingdoms that I owned that were both one person. And then it got split between me and my brother character. So I went to war with my brother and I defeated him. And then from prison, he offered to 1v1 me for the kingdoms that he just lost. And it's just like a random chance encounter that there's like a 50-50 chance on what you'll do. And he fucking beat me from prison. So then I was in jail and I just to sit there and fucking wait for the game time to continue. And it drove me insane. But in retrospect, it was kind of a cool story.
That is a really cool story.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if this really qualifies for feels, but it's a different kind of feels. And I think I mostly find a lot of that with gameplay. When I find something that is so different to me with gameplay, because I'm just so used to, as a kid, you experience that so much, something new, and you get kind of jaded, I guess, as you get older. So when you experience something that's completely new, that's a very exciting feeling for a gamer. That sense
of wonder. You're like, wow, anything can happen.
Yeah. And I mean, so when something really happens, it's really cool and just fun. And you're like, wow, how has nobody thought of this before? And one of the games that really got overlooked, but I really enjoyed it, was this Metroidvania, Kunai. How do you say that? Kunai?
Oh, Kunai, yeah, Kunai.
And it was a very simple concept, which is just this grappling. You could grapple with your right or left, and you essentially are like Spider-Man, but on a 2D plane, and you use like exaggerated physics. And it's like, in my head, it's like, how has nobody focused more on this, before? And for me, that gets me really excited about a game, especially when it's like an independent game. You're just like, why is nobody else doing this? It's awesome.
So you're just saying mechanically it did something that was so cool that you're like, man, I feel like a kid again.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
That game does need to be talked about more.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Well, there you go. There's the plug. Yeah. But I think that's going to do it for this week. listeners, if you have any other questions for us, feel free to comment on the YouTube upload that we share on Tuesdays. We record these the night before, and we post them right after I bother Rosario about where is the upload. But I think that's going to do it. Any big news or content coming this week on the website, Rosario?
I have an Assassin's Creed: The Siege of Paris review coming out on Wednesday.
Ooh,
I can tease it.
is this a Valhalla expansion?
This is Assassin's Creed Valhalla expansion.
Ooh,
be on the lookout.
I didn't even know they made DLC.
I'm also writing my Skyward Sword. So,
I'm so curious. Yeah.
So I just beat it. I decided to play it all the way through.
Wow,
I didn't plan to, but
had you played it before?
No, but I watched 4 speedruns before.
Okay.
Before I played it, so
we should talk about that next week, because for some reason I actually played that entire game when it came out.
Okay.
Yeah,
and it's interesting to see the legacy it has now.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's the tease for later this week, the content on the website, and the tease for next week's episode. Feel free to contribute by sending us a question. Otherwise, we'll talk to you guys then. See ya.
Bye.
Noisy Pixel.